Okay, filling your life right where you are. We had the funeral service or the memorial service for Sharon Gray yesterday here, and it was the place was full, which I always appreciate. Is a good opportunity to kind of share our message. But one of the things I said, and usually say at services like this, is that when we're looking at a subject like death, which we were doing, trying to process that, put it in a place that is makes sense to us, that works for us, because it's one of the most difficult things to deal with, because of the feeling of loss, the sense of loss that we have. But one of the things I pointed out is it's important for each of us to look at all of these things that happen in our lives, all of these things that concern us. And all of us are touched by loss in some way. We all know how we are supposed to react because of our religious training. And I suggested that we stop, or not stop, but look beyond that. Look within ourselves for a meaningful response, because what we tend to do is we have things that are confusing to us, and so we go ask the expert somewhere. But who made anyone an expert of your understanding, of your experience on this planet? Where is someone that knows more about you than you? Is there someone around that does that? And we think there is. And so we have all of our religious professionals, we have our doctors, our priests, our ministers, our, the whole clergy profession, which I have a lot of respect for in many ways. But what I have difficulty with sometimes is our willingness to turn our minds over to somebody else. And that's one of the problems that we have. And that's why I like this idea of exploring the heart of enlightened Christianity. There's a Christianity that we're all familiar with, a level of truth that was spoken by Jesus, or the words attributed to Jesus, principles that make sense to us. But they're not taught by the professionals. They're not taught openly. There's always a condition around it. You have to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. You have to do this or that. To make that right, to make that context right. And I don't think Jesus taught that. I don't think Jesus taught you've got to accept me as your personal Savior before anything in life makes sense. I don't recall reading that anyplace. But it is a given. And what the religious industry basically says to us is, you don't have the ability to think on your own. It's not safe for you to do that. It's not safe for you to question God, to question the existence of God, to question the meaning of the teachings of Jesus. It's not safe to do that. Because if you mess it up, you've got a real big problem. And I've been to funeral services where that was emphasized. That was the emphasis. You better accept Jesus as your Savior today, because you could be in this casket a lot sooner than you think. And then where will you spend your eternity, as the sign in the middle of Kansas asks. If you die today, where will you spend your eternity? So the beauty of a teaching like this, and my admiration for people like you, is you have said, there's got to be more than what I've been taught. And you're willing to take a look at that more. You're willing to actually put feet on it, to walk to another place and step into a minority presentation. We're not following the crowd here, in case you haven't noticed. If you want to see crowd followers, just drive down Patterson to about 28 and a half, I think it is, Troy, with the new marquee that's very beautiful color signs of all these happy people that have accepted Jesus. And that's the majority. That's the Christian majority. But there is a Christian minority, and it's a group of people who started thinking for themselves. And I think they started thinking along the lines that Jesus suggested. That it was not him, he did not put himself on any kind of a pedestal for us to follow. He didn't say, worship me. He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. But he's not speaking from the man, the personal man. He's giving voice to that I am, that soul that you and I are. That's the only thing that makes sense, because if you think of yourself as an expression of God, if you are an expression of God, then where is that connection to God? Where would that exist? Would it exist someplace in a mega church? Or even a small church? Where would it exist? Would it exist in some wise person that knows more about spiritual things than you do? If I am a direct expression of God, that relationship that I have with God exists within me. That's the only place on this planet that it exists. So who's the potential expert on that relationship? People can tell me about it, but who is more qualified to understand that relationship with God and to have a relationship with God than I am? Anytime I go out and hear someone talk about it, I'm getting secondhand information. I'm getting an opinion about what I should be experiencing, or what I might be able to experience, or what I could experience if I believe a certain way. So I think we have stepped upon, the people of this type of thought, people like you. You've been down a certain road, and you've been exposed to how we're supposed to look at this whole thing that we call religion. But we have said, okay, I get that, but it's not enough. There's some of it that doesn't make sense. That was one thing that always struck me about unity when I first discovered it. There was some logic, some spiritual logic. It actually made sense. And what I'm saying right now, I think, makes sense, that you are created in the image and after the likeness of God. That's according to Genesis. And I think most of us have come to believe that here. So where would the authority be for that relationship between myself, the expression of God, and God? If you're the creator of a painting or a song or a book or an article or something, who did that? Who's the expert on that? Whose is that? It's yours. And you had the relationship that brought it about. And yet when we think of God, because we have been so exposed to this religious professionalism, and I'm not putting that down necessarily, but Jesus talked about the blind following the blind, and I think that's what we see in so much of religion today. It's like, what are we supposed to believe? Let's go learn about what we're supposed to believe. Let's stop listening to ourselves, because that's dangerous. And let's go find out from the professionals what we're supposed to believe. What am I supposed to believe about death? What am I supposed to believe about life? What am I supposed to believe about God? We go find out what we're supposed to believe, and then we either live up to that or we don't. And if we don't, we feel, well, there are ways to fix that. You can go into confession, or you can do all kinds of things, pay a little bit of money, and get yourself right with God again. And whose idea is that? You think you can pay a few bucks and get yourself back in tune with God? There are a lot of people that think that. And it's okay if they think that they did it, then what they have done is gotten themselves back in tune with a perception of God, because their inner experience is no different. They'll be back in confession at the end of next week. It's just a continual cycle. It's a way to keep me out of hell. But where did all that come from? That's what we have to ask ourselves. That's what we want to ask ourselves. And so filling your life right where you are, it kind of begins with that attitude, is who is the religious professional? Who is the spiritual professional? If I don't feel like a spiritual professional, that's where I begin filling my life. Make yourself a spiritual professional. And you start that by saying, I am an expression of God. There's only one me. I'm the only facet of God that looks like this. So where do I go out and ask somebody else or find out how this expression is supposed to work? That's where I start. I make my life mine. I make my relationship to God mine. I make my spiritual journey mine. So Jesus said something here at the end of a parable that he gave that confuses a lot of people, or I have heard people express confusion over, I should say. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have abundance. But for him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. If you think about that in the context of what I just said, everyone who has will more be given. That is, if you take charge of yourself, your life, more will be given to you. If you don't do that, whatever it is you have will be taken away. And the way it's taken away is you adopt somebody's belief system. You go through life, somebody dies, there's some crisis in your life that pushes you beyond your faith, beyond your limits, beyond your teaching, beyond the understanding of what's been given to you. And so you are distraught. You go to the religious professional for counseling. I believe, why am I hurting so bad? Why is this so devastating to me? And the answer you'll likely get is you just have to go in faith. It's all happening in God's good time. The problem that you're experiencing is that your belief system broke down. You reached the edge of it. You reached the limit to that because it's not yours. It's somebody else's, and you're trying to apply it. So if you don't have it, you're going to lose it. Even, the little you have, you'll lose. The belief system will make no sense when something pushes beyond that. And that happens all the time. I've talked with people over the years that very angry about, why is God doing this to me? Why is God challenging me, punishing me, or testing me? I've been tested so much, I don't want to be tested anymore. Haven't I demonstrated that I'm an okay person? What they're doing is fighting against something they were given, some idea that was presented to them, and they're trying to say, if I behave a certain way, God will like me better. They're trying to apply spiritual principles from a void of understanding of their oneness with God. And it's like it makes no sense. And so you're pushed beyond. And it's always, I don't always know how to respond to that, because we're on such a different page usually when I'm talking to somebody. And I was talking to somebody just recently that was just screaming basically at me because I'm a representative of God in their mind. Why is God doing this to me? And it's a pretty interesting thing to observe. And in my mind, I know exactly what is going on. They're not coming from their base. They're not coming from their experience. They're coming from a book. They're coming from a person that told them this is how it works. They've never come to that themselves. But I can assure you that no matter how deep your understanding is of God, and I think many of you have a very good understanding, you're still going to have problems. You're going to leave this earth one of these days. The people you love are going to leave this earth one of these days. Things don't always go smoothly just because you believe. It's because this is not our home. We're visitors here. We don't belong here. We're on vacation. We're having an experience here that is temporary. And we're trying to make sense out of all of it in a way that we can say, I've fixed it and I've got it all figured out, and from now on, everything's good. But then we are backed up against a wall. We don't know what to do, and it just is, our world flies apart, and we blame God. We get angry at all the teachers that taught us these things and that are supposed to be true, and it's all because it's not ours. We don't have it. To everyone who has, more will be given. That is, if you are on your path, you're asking your questions, and this is your spiritual journey, then you will get more. You will understand. Your understanding will continue to expand. But if it's not yours, if you don't have it, then that which you think you have will be taken away by the next crisis. You'll be devastated. And you can always tell how much you own by the crisis that you have. And I'm not saying let's have a crisis so we can tell where we're at. But watch how you react to the next problem that comes up. And then watch yourself work through that. I think we all have the knee-jerk reaction of our old teachings. We have the old God up in the sky thing. Why is this happening to me? I'm trying to walk the straight and narrow, but it's just not working out. Or, why would this happen? What did I do wrong? You just showed up on this planet. You didn't do anything wrong. That's what we come to, is that as long as we're here, as long as we have bodies, we're going to have these issues that come up. So it shouldn't be a big surprise when they do. But it's the consciousness we live with. It's either ours or it's someone else's. If it's ours, then we will develop a deeper understanding through this challenge. If it's not ours, we'll have this reaction where it's everybody else's fault. Somebody told me something wrong. God's angry at me. God's doing something to me that I don't understand. And who hasn't felt that way? I think all of us probably have. It's a real temptation to do that, to think that if I just think right, if I just do everything right, then I won't have a problem. I won't have the problem like they're having over there. This parable, or what Jesus was responding to here, was a homeowner that he tells a parable about a homeowner that goes off on a trip and he gives money to 3 different people. 2 of them invest the money he gives, and one of them buries it because he's afraid of losing it. And so and because he's afraid of losing it, the homeowner takes what he had, what he gave him, away. And that's the principle I'm talking about here. There's no mystery to it. It's 2 of the people took ownership. Okay, he's given me X number of dollars, it's his dollars, but it's my responsibility, it's my life. So I will utilize what I actually know, and I will invest this. In other words, I'll give myself to my life with this new thing that I have here. And 2 of them did that, and 1 of them withheld. And so that's the principle that Jesus is talking about here. He's illustrating. It's the power of giving. Not in the normal sense that we think of. It's giving of ourselves. It's making your life yours. That is a powerful thing. These 2 guys took the money, they made it theirs, and they multiplied it. The one that buried it never made the money his. It's the homeowner's, and if I lose it, he's going to kill me. That's the thinking. It's not mine. It's not, I'm just kind of holding on to this, so I'm going to bury it, keep it safe. And that's the religious teaching that we have taken in from the outside. It's not ours. And so when something pushes beyond that, we don't know what to do with it. We don't know what to do because it's not ours. So the idea here is make your life yours. Make you yours. Make God yours. First commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Do we do that? Or do we keep saying, okay, I love God, but what is God? And we keep asking, keep getting external input. And there's nothing wrong with external input, but there comes a time when you've got to make it yours, or it will always be external. In other words, you're burying the ideas in a place that they're not going to do you or anyone else any good. So the principle is begin giving now from what you have and from where you are. Wattles. You ever read Wallace Wattles? Anybody know who he is? He was a writer back in the late 1800s, I think. Funny looking guy. But he wrote a book. Gosh, I had the title. Well, it's on the back of your program there. I would recommend the book, actually. It's a positive thinking type of thing based around the accumulation of wealth from a spiritual perspective, and it's a pretty good thing. But one of the principles he says is put your whole mind into present action. And that's really what Jesus is saying. What did these 2 guys do that took the funds that were given to them? They put their whole being. They took that and they invested. Put their whole being into it. What did the guy that buried it do? He didn't put his whole mind into present action. The present action was to protect the thing he feared, to protect himself. He wasn't living his life. He had somebody else's stuff he was having to safeguard. And he thought he was doing a good thing. And that's what most followers of religious ideas do. That if I do this, if I bury this treasure and keep it safe, I'll be doing a good thing. And when all is said and done, I'll walk through those pearly gates and I'll be just fine. Well, what if there are no pearly gates? What if you leave this body and you find that life is still waiting for you to start living? I think that's what we find. And I think what we find when we do the life review is, why didn't I start living a lot sooner? Why didn't I make my life mine a long time ago? That's what I think happens. I think that's the balance that we will be confronted with in that situation. It's not St. Peter, with checking to see if our name is in the book because we did good deeds or not. It's us being asked, did you live your life? You incarnated, did you live your life? Did you make this your experience? Did you make God yours? Or did you go get a bunch of facts from so-called professionals and try to live your life from that basis? And many of us will say that we did that. I think people that even step over from the mainstream religions into the alternative approaches, They will adopt whatever the consensus is of the alternative approach and do the exact same thing. It's not theirs. They'll step into a thing like unity and say, what are we supposed to believe here? I like this. What more do I believe? So it's not getting involved and becoming a part of an organization is not the solution. The organization should focus on kicking you in the rear end until you get on with your life. That's what I think it should be about. And I do that in a nice way. Does anybody think I've kicked them in the rear end? I hope in some ways you do. That it's a stimulating thing to come here and be confronted with some ideas that maybe you didn't have before you came. But I'm not here as an expert on your life, telling you how to live your life. I'm here to talk about spiritual principle, and there's really it's a very simple thing. You and I are unique expressions of God. So where is that happening? And how do we learn about it? It's happening within us. That's why we keep saying you go within. So, okay, we learn, I go within. I'm supposed to go within. What's that mean? I don't know, but I'm supposed to do it. I kind of get it. I like it. I like to hear it because it kind of makes it mine. But do we actually do that? In our moment of crisis, are we able to let go of all the things we think we're supposed to be doing and come back and truly invest ourselves from the understanding that we have in that situation until we get through it, until it makes sense to us? It doesn't mean you have to do it perfectly, but it's better to do it on your own and make mistakes than it is to try to do it on someone else's terms and never get it. There'll be people that stand around you, you're trying to follow a certain system, and they'll cheer you on, but you will not advance until you do it yourself, until it becomes you. Are you in need of healing? Commit absolutely to it now. This is one thing I had to deal with, and I still am dealing with the vertigo thing, is I think more than anything, I came to a place where when it would start coming on, I would start saying no. No, I'm not going to do this. Because what I found I was doing is it would start coming on and I would become afraid. I'm afraid this is going to get worse. So I would have a reaction that wasn't coming from me. It was coming from a surface level of me. This thing's bigger than I am. It has control of me. And so there's not much I can do about it. But I found that I could start a different direction by saying no. When this thing would come up, I would say no to it. I'm not going to give in to this. Just have this conversation, not with the problem, but with myself. Because it raises its ugly head. It says, I'm more powerful than you. Just, you can say what you want, but I'm going to win. But I said, I don't think I want that anymore. And maybe I'm not fully healed yet, but I can do this. I can sing again. I can do things now that I couldn't do when I was saying, no, I can't do this. And all that I think has really changed is in my mind. It's how I see myself. Because the people I went to, talked to, the professionals, all had opinions about what was going on. What they could never know was going on was the dialogue I was having with vertigo. And they would not suggest that I change that dialogue. But that is taking control of your life. You see, when you have something you don't know what it is, you assume somebody else knows more about it than you. Well, it's happening in your head or in your life. It's yours. So who's the expert? Who's the real expert? So if you're in need of a healing like this, you commit absolutely to it now. Make every mental image, every emotion conform to what you want, settle for nothing less. And that's not easy to do. I've sat up here a couple of times and you guys were going like this, and spinning. Somebody said, well, you look perfectly normal. I said, you don't. That's the problem. Looks aren't everything. It's looking out through these eyes that's where I'm coming from, and that's what I want fixed. And so you make this yours. You make it your thing. I'm the expert. This is happening in me. So I am the one that will do something with it. And you work from that perspective. It's a very powerful place to go. It's not easy to do that, as I said, but it's actually easier than going to 15 other people and getting the same results. Do you need more supply than at this very moment? Be done with your lacking image of yourself and start investing all your energy into the condition of plenty. You can apply this in any area you're struggling. It's whatever weakness you feel is there. You look at that and you say, that's one of my weaknesses. That's a problem I have. I need some help. I need an expert. So it's your problem. So you're the expert. Begin to give yourself permission to be the expert. And you'll be amazed at what things come to you. Simple things. Just the simple me dialoguing with this vertigo condition. I would never have thought of that. But after so long, you start thinking about things. You start thinking about, what is this? And where is it happening? And what dialogue am I engaging in as it happens? Do I see myself as a grasshopper? Or do I see myself as a conqueror? Am I here on this planet to be afraid of something like this? It doesn't make any sense. This is my body. Why would I be afraid of my body? I'm much greater than my body. You are much greater than your body. And so many of our problems are related to the body, and we make ourselves this little creature that is shaking in our boots because this body is threatening us with something. And I'm not making light of this at all. I'm just saying this is, where is our life happening and where does the change need to occur? How are we talking to ourselves? Are we giving of ourselves? Are we pouring ourselves into our life right now? Do not be afraid to give from where you are, and that's the thing. If I could just get over this problem, if I could just get rid of this vertigo, then I could start giving. But apparently I have this vertigo, so maybe I should start giving in this vertigo. And how can I do that? I can change the dialogue. I can change how I'm thinking of it. And I can begin to push past it. So I'm dizzy walking down the street. Well, I'm determined I'm going to walk straight. I'm going to be okay with this. I'm going to make this moment okay. I'm going to be greater than this thing. I can do this. So it's being conscious. Am I the victim of something? Is this thing greater than I am? Or am I going to continue to worship at its feet? Invest all your energy in your desire, and more energy will be given you in the form of new ideas, new enthusiasm, new opportunities. That's absolutely true. You start down a road changing the way you think of something, and you'll get new ideas that you didn't even know existed. And you'll be able to employ those. Don't wear yourself out looking for results. That's really important. because you can do that. Wear yourself out looking for results. I was seeing this thing as smaller than me, but then pretty soon it jumps up again. Fill your life right now where you are with an absolute commitment to your desire, and it will be yours. Where do you want to go in life? Just think of whatever it is you're dealing with. Invest your being in your vision, doing everything you know right now to bring it about. And I would start with what I just shared with you, the dialogue thing. How are you talking to this thing? How are you reacting to it? Take a look at that and begin to kind of change the script. Do not bury your talent, wishing, worrying, regretting, or discussing how bad things are. That's real easy to fall into. I did that quite a bit with the vertigo. And pretty soon you get tired of hearing yourself talk about it. I did anyway. Tired of explaining it. I don't want to do that. There's so many things that are much more interesting than my problem. Let's talk about something else. Pull out all the stops and start pouring your imagination, faith, and ability to act into the thing you desire. And sometimes you really grab those bootstraps and pull hard to get yourself going in the right direction, but you can do it. And if you fall down, get up and do it again. Just keep going. But we give ourselves, that's how we begin giving ourselves right where we are. And it's no small feat, and we will make more progress doing that. All right? Got it? All right. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you again next week.
You've been watching a talk presented at the Unity Church of Grand Junction by Reverend Doug Bator. We would like to thank everyone who joined us here today in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado, as well as those of you who are joining us online. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Also, please feel free to share this video with anyone you think might be interested or benefit from this message. If this video brought value to your life, please consider making a donation by clicking the link below to our PayPal donation account. Thanks again so much for watching.